Hi, hope you're doing well. Can anything good come out of these really strange times that we're living through? I'm hoping, and I think I believe the answer is yes. One phrase that I've heard used is we shouldn't waste a crisis. We should let it do something in us which will change us. And I've been thinking about the Second World War, and during even the dark days of the Second World War, there were people planning for its aftermath. And because of that, we got very positive things like the NHS. We got education reform so that more children would have a great opportunity to study to a decent level. We got welfare reform where people who weren't able to work or weren't able to find jobs would be looked after more than they were before. They'd thought about this at the end of the First World War, and there was a thing about homes for heroes, but I think there was a real disappointment because it didn't seem to happen. But to some extent, at the end of the Second World War, there was progress made and there were positives that came out of that awful time. If you think of Southampton, much of Southampton was destroyed during the Second World War, and they tried to rebuild the city centre. They tried to rebuild around the suburbs and the big housing estates that we have now. And I'll let you decide whether they did a good job over that. But even during difficult times, people were thinking about getting through them. And people were thinking about how we can make it positive. And I guess having listened to the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, this week, he's been trying to make sure that something positive can come out of the COVID crisis, something positive in terms of more green jobs, more care for the environment, more training of young people. And well, who knows whether that will succeed. But it's interesting that there's this thought of trying to make something positive now out of something that is incredibly sad and incredibly negative. And negative things do work in our lives. I read a statistic the other day that said that over a period of time, 60% of prime ministers of this country had lost a parent during their childhood. And at that time, it was 15%, 1/5 of the general population. So 60%, 15%. So you ask yourselves, was it the crisis that these people had been through which made them the people that they became and made them into being important politicians, prime ministers in our country? The Bible seems to tell us that out of trials positive can come. In the book of James, he says, consider it pure joy when you meet various trials. And I'm not sure, James, whether I can consider it pure joy, but I do agree that it works something in our lives. And so I've been thinking, well, what can it work for any of us? Firstly, I want to say I'm very aware of the negatives, not only the loss of life that there's been, but just the anxiety, the fear, the loneliness, the solitude that people have had. And that's been an incredibly difficult thing. And I don't want to minimise that. But I do wonder whether for many of us it's been a time as well of re-evaluating and not being sure, like any of us can be, as to how long we might have here on earth and all that. Well, let's use it to the best. Let's do the things in life that we really want to do. Let's achieve what we want to do. I sometimes say at funerals, there's not a lot we can do now, so these are probably days to dream some dreams, and I'd encourage us to do that. But the other side of it is one thing we can still do now is leave positive memories in the lives of those we care about. And so I would encourage us to be reaching out to others and and thinking what we can do to make a difference, to contribute into other people's lives. I've already said during some of these talks that churches are having to think through, are there changes that they can make? It's funny, the churches that meet at 10:30 or 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, well, is that the right time to meet? Could there be other times to meet as churches once again begin to assemble together? These are all challenges, things that we can think about. But I want to finish with a Bible verse. It's in the book of Philippians, and it's Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. And it says this: "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving present your request to God." And these days have been days of great anxiety, and I wonder if people watching this are just feeling anxious, don't even want to go out anymore, don't feel they can. I just want to say that I sincerely believe that God can help us. So if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling fearful, do ask God. Even if you're not sure how much you believe in God, ask God to help you, and I believe he will. And it says as a result of that, and the peace of God, which transcends or passes all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So if that's you today, why don't you just ask God to help you? But if you're not in that position, I'd really encourage us, may what's happening bring us changes. May it make us more merciful. May it make us more caring. May it make us want to reach out and to help others. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye-bye.